Coming up next on the Breadwinning Mums.
I want more for myself. I'm a bad wife for wanting more. I love Pierre and I want us to be happy, but I also resent Pierre for not understanding me or even trying to understand me. I love spending time with my daughters, but I'm conflicted when I have to spend time with them and it cuts into my work on the Olympia project. I like it when we're all together as a family, but sometimes I wish I lived alone and had no one to look after.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Breadwinning Mums podcast. This is a place where we debunk the myths of working mums, cheer each other on, and show the world that you can be a mum and still pursue excellence in your chosen area of expertise. Today we're chatting with Alka Joshi, an internationally best-selling author of the Jaipur Trilogy, the Henna Artist, the Secret Keeper of Jaipur, and the Perfumist of Paris. 6 Days in Bombay is her fourth novel. We spoke about the lead female characters in Alka's novels, their journey of self-exploration, self-realization, and self-acceptance. I know you'll enjoy this episode with Alka Joshi. Alka Joshi, welcome to the Breadwinning Mums podcast.
Thank you. And thank you for pronouncing my name correctly.
Oh, that's good. I was supposed to check just before, but it's good to know that I did it right.
Yeah.
So Alka, you are an international best-selling author. Your first book, The Henna Artist, was picked by Reese Witherspoon Book Club, and it's currently being adapted into a Netflix series starring Frida Pinto and has been translated into 30 languages. You wrote 3 subsequent books after that. But before we go into the details of your creation so far, I'm just going to start with a very simple question. Who are you as a human, Alka?
It's so funny. You can spend probably an entire lifetime trying to answer that, right? And I think that from the very beginning, the person I have been is somebody who's really creative. I just always love to draw. I like to think about everything in a very visual sense. So if I ever had thoughts about anything, it would come out in a sort of graphic, in my imagination. I love to come up with creative ideas. So I think from the very beginning, I have been somebody who comes up with creative ideas, and I don't give up easily. So let's say that I had to come up with some brand new campaign for something, and I did this all the time when I worked in my advertising business. I would just come up with 100 ideas. Like, I don't just stop at 2 or 3. I just come up with 100 ideas, 100 different ways to come at something. So I'm not somebody who gives up easily. And I think that tenacity has served me well in both the corporate world and in my creative job now as an author, and also just maybe in my personal life. I don't like hearing no for an answer. I always think that there must be a way to get to yes.
Yeah.
Does that resonate with you
Oh
at all?
yeah. Oh yeah. I saw an interview that Reese actually Witherspoon had with Melinda Gates.
Uh-huh.
And she was talking about her ordeals that she went through as well in her life. And she said, Reese said, when somebody tells me no, I don't get dejected. I don't get depressed. I get angry. And that she was able to use that as a fuel to really, find out how to get to where she wants to be rather than feeling
Yes.
deflated.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. My newest challenge is um, I think I would like to write my own screenplays. All right. But what I keep being told is, oh, no, you're a fiction writer. That's a very different kind of thing. You need to leave that to the experts. Well, whenever I hear you need to leave that to the experts, I
Yeah.
think I'm a smart woman.
Yeah.
I can figure this thing out. Maybe I have to take a couple of classes. Maybe I have to talk to some experts about how to get to this place. But I think I can get there too. Why should anybody limit me like that?
That
Yes.
is awesome. How old were you when we first realized this quality within yourself, Alka?
Ah, I think I was probably very young. I think that my first conscious sort of memory of something like that is coming to the United States. Uh,
Hmm.
and I was 9 years old. We came from India. I was having to read out loud, as everybody in the class was, from some textbook, or maybe it was a story we were reading. So I was reading this out loud, and I remember people sort of intimating that maybe I wouldn't be able to because it wasn't my first language. But of course, I had learned how to read in English all the way back in India. And so I was able to speak it. I didn't think to myself, oh, I'm in a new country now, I can't possibly do this. No,
Hmm.
I read it out loud anyway. And I just thought, what's so hard about these things that everybody says, no, you can't do this or you can't do that? What is so hard
Hmm.
about it anyway?
Wow, amazing. You didn't let it get to you. Well done.
Mhm.
I moved to Australia when I was 12 as well. I came from Indonesia, and it did take me a while actually. It did get to you a little bit, for me at least. But it's a good thing to know that you had that tenacity from a very early age.
I had the tenacity. Now, I didn't always have the confidence
Yeah.
that, that I thought, oh, I'll just fit right into my new culture. No, I didn't have that confidence. In
Mm,
fact, that took me a very long time to
mm,
think that I belonged there,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I'm capable, but that is such a different thing than saying I belong, or I know how to belong, or it'll be easy for me to belong.
Yeah.
That I think was always hard for me because I was so shy.
Yeah.
So, as a human, my internal process is really to be very introverted. I would rather observe people than talk. I would
Mm,
rather be in the corner and watching everybody do their thing than having me be the center of attention. I would much rather do that because it's so interesting to it's just so interesting for me to even think about um, uh, about why people say the things they do, why they do the things they do. And the more I can observe them, the more I can figure out the answers to those questions. I think it's what makes me a good writer also,
yeah. Yeah.
because in with my characters, I can easily place myself in their shoes, having
Yeah.
observed so many people in my life. I've had to force myself to become an extrovert because I realized my family realized very early because I was always clinging to my mom. Like, I didn't want to go out there and talk to people. And she would say, you need to go out and say hello to your uncles or your aunties, or, you need to go out and talk to these kids. And I was just so shy. I just could not imagine doing that. Now I can get up in front of a crowd of 1,000 people and
Yeah.
not have any kind of trepidation about it. But
Yeah.
but it's not my natural thing. I
Yeah.
can easily do it now,
Yeah.
but I would much rather be in a room quiet and just watching other people talk.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I was having this conversation a while ago, and I think so quite similar with your experience. As I was transitioning into a new life here, learning a new language, learning how to behave a certain way, because people in Asia behave in a completely different way from people in the Western world. You've become a much better observer, and that became your superpower, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that for those of us who come from another country, that is
Mm,
our superpower.
mm,
And I remember people saying to me, like in college, I remember people saying, "Wow, you listen so well." And
yeah.
I was thinking to myself, well, that like I never even thought about
Yeah.
that I was doing that consciously,
Yeah.
but I just found people fascinating. Why wouldn't I listen to them? They
Yeah.
People are endlessly fascinating.
Yeah. And it was how we survived at the time, right? It was our survival mechanism, so we had to build that strength.
Yes.
Before we go into the nuances that came with living in a world in a new world, I'd like to go back in time. Maybe take us back to the young Alka. What was she like?
Okay, so uh, very studious, really loved learning, and I loved being, complimented by my teachers. I lived for that.
Yeah.
I just loved it when a teacher would recognize me and say, "Oh, well done. That was a really nice drawing that you did," or "That was a really great paper that you wrote." Um, I think that a part of me was so happy with that part of my life that I didn't develop that other part of my life, which is how do you make friends easily? How do you talk to
Mm,
people? How do you feel comfortable in almost any environment that you're in? It
yeah.
w- Almost, from the beginning, I think that doing well in school was something I could hide behind.
Mm,
And It gave me, well, it's interesting because if you come in first rank in a lot of your classes and you do the best in all of your exams, you're not really hiding, right? Because everybody then in class knows who you are. Everybody in class goes, "Oh, that's Alka. She gets straight A's. Yeah, 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 of course." And then they would ask me, they go, "Okay, did you do the best in class? Like, what was your score? We know your score was the highest, right?" So maybe it was a way for me to stand out without actually standing out, if that makes
mm,
sense.
yeah.
Um, and so I think when school comes easily to you, then you know that that is one arena in which you're always going to shine.
Mm.
Uh, Now in sports, I was horrible. In sports, I didn't understand how to catch a ball. In fact, if any balls were coming at me, whether it was tetherball or volleyball or baseball, any balls coming at me, I would just run out of the way,
Okay.
which is, of course, what you're not supposed to do. And so I felt really horrible in all of the gym classes and all of the sports teams because, they would see me coming up as somebody that they either were going to select or not going to select.
Yeah.
And I would hear this collective groan from the team. And they would go, "No, not her. No, don't pick her. Don't
Oh
pick."
no.
So I know, I mean, I was just horrible at sports and I didn't really, see the point of it. And I just, I think I was just waiting to grow up. I just thought, oh, when I grow up, I don't have to do this anymore. Thank the Lord. I don't have to do this anymore. Um, Now, I knew from the time that I was a little girl, when we would go on the playgrounds and all the girls at recess would be talking about how they were going to have 3 kids and who are you going to marry, and I'm going to have 4 and I'm going to do this and I'm going to
Mm,
have this house and I'm going to have 4 bedrooms. And I just thought to myself, how did these girls know
mm,
what they want? How
mm,
do they know how their life is going to pan out? Because even at, I don't know, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 11, I knew that I didn't want to have my own children.
wow.
It was just something I just thought, well, they're all playing with these little toys, these little baby dolls that poo and pee, and you can feed them, through this
Yeah.
little bottle and everything. Um, and I was far more interested in fashion, like the Barbies, and how I could deck them out in the most beautiful, gowns, and put up their hair, and put all the little accessories on them, the
Yeah.
necklaces and the earrings and everything. I was far more interested in sort of grown-up stuff, and not really interested in becoming a mom. I don't know why. I guess maybe some of us are just not inclined that way. So, yeah.
I think some of us are smart enough to see through the matrix. Like from 8 to 9 years old, for you to have that understanding at, I don't need to be like anyone else just because that's the way the world has been for them.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's really funny. I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she
Oh,
was cutting something, some fruit, I think, in the kitchen the other day. And then she said, "One day I'm gonna have two kids. It's going to be a boy and then a girl, or maybe a girl and then a boy. It doesn't really matter." Like, okay,
yeah.
that's good for you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for you to be able
How
to
does she
realize
know? How
exactly,
does she know?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it's probably just social conditioning. It's something that you see every day. So you think that's, at least in my case, I have two older brothers. They had kids, and so I would one day have kids because the older cousins before them had kids. But for you to have, that conscious realization at 8, 9, and 10 years old, to know that that is a choice. You don't have to do it just because everyone else has done it is
Yeah.
such an amazing realization. And then
Oh,
your work subsequently, and I'd love to go into all of this internal struggle between self-actualization and then the demands that raising a family will bring.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it is so important for each and every one of us to take a moment that everything is a choice. You don't have to do something just because that's the society has imposed on most of us.
Yes. Yes. And Jane, what is happening more and more as readers write to me, a
Mm,
lot of them are women in their 50s, 60s, 70s,
mm,
and they're saying, "Oh, so you didn't start writing until you were in your 60s?"
yeah,
And they're like, "Oh, so I could do it too?" And I'm
yeah,
thinking, why wouldn't you always have thought that you
yeah,
could do it? I never once thought, Jane, I'm too old to
yeah,
write, or I'm too old to change my career.
yeah,
That thought has never been in my head. Like,
yeah,
I'm too old to X.
yeah,
No, no, not at
yeah,
all. And I
yeah,
think, wow, so women still live with so many limitations in their head
yeah,
about what they can and can't do,
yeah.
even though they've already had their kids, they've already had a career. Why not let yourself be free to do whatever you want now?
Yeah, that is amazing. I did see that about you writing later on in your life, and I saw a little bit of parallel between Colonel Sanders. He started KFC when he was 65,
I
and
didn't know that.
yeah, and you started your writing career when you were 62 with your first book published in the middle of a pandemic as well.
Yes.
So I'm curious, how has your lived experience prepared you for authorship? The challenges that the pandemic lockdown threw your way, and then the subsequent fame that followed.
I feel as if this is just an extension of everything I used to do before.
Yeah,
So for 30 years, I was
yeah,
in advertising and marketing. And for
yeah.
the last, I think about 18 years of that, I ran my own company.
Mm,
So in running my own company, I was managing projects. I was pitching projects, always talking to clients. I was always in meetings with C-level executives to say, okay, here's the campaign we've come up with. Here is, how well it's performing, blah, blah, blah. So I had always made presentations. I had always known about deadlines and how important it is to meet deadlines, how important it is to measure how well you're doing and maybe change course. If one method is not working, then try another method. And I think that that prepared me so well for the world of fiction writing. Number one, creatively, if I feel that in one iteration of this story that I'm writing, if it's not coming across the way that I think it should be coming across, well, I can always start over again, or I can always take another a path in a particular scene. I don't have to stick to that scene. And then when it came time to present my idea for the story, my idea for the book, to talk to my agent first, and then to editors, and then to publishers, so easy. It was so easy because all I had to do was put on my professional hat and
Mm.
say, okay, how would I tackle this if this were a client? I look at everybody in my life at this point in the literary world as a client.
Mm.
So, this is exactly how I'm going to approach them. So that part became very easy, making all the presentations. And then knowing that I'm going to have to revise, revise, revise. Well, that is just the whole client world that I dealt with, right? You present one idea to them, they go, not really sure if I like this one. What if we tweak it this way, this way, this way? And then I go back to the drawing board. I work with my people. We present some more ideas to them. Finally, they'll choose one. So I was used to revising. It's not the
Mm.
end of the world. And
Mm.
it's always important to listen to what the client wants because sometimes they're right.
Yeah, that's amazing. When did you make a pivot into fiction writing?
So I was in the year 2008 running my own agency, but then that big recession came along, the
Yeah,
worldwide recession.
yeah,
And during that recession, my business went way down because so many clients either lost their jobs or their companies were in some kind of financial trouble.
yeah,
So they said, oh, we're just going to have to put things on hold. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to have to twiddle my thumbs for a couple of years. What am I going to do with myself? Always before I had either traveled or I had taken classes. I still love to learn. I love to learn new
yeah.
things all the time. And my husband had always said to me, I think that you could write fiction, Alka, because you like to tell stories.
Mm.
And he is not Indian. And so he found my stories about India very interesting because
Yeah.
he'd never heard them before. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I could do that. I enrolled in a master's program in
Wow.
creative writing.
Yeah.
And, I think from the get go, whatever prompts they gave me, writing prompts, they said, Alka, you already know how to write. We are
Mm.
just going to have to mold you. We're going to have to shape what you do.
Mm.
Um, and so my husband had been right all of those years. I mean, essentially, I already knew sort of how to develop characters, how to write dialogue, how to build a story, because I'd been doing that in advertising for so many years. But now it was this luxury of expanding it to 300 to 400 pages.
Yeah.
That was really lovely.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to write stories about India. At the same time, though, and serendipity works in our favor in so many ways. At the same time, my younger brother bought a flat in Jaipur, which is where we
Mm.
live in Rajasthan in India at one time, and all of our extended families there. And he said, you guys can go hang out there anytime you want. So my mother said, let's go, Alka. If you will take me, I would like to hang out there for a couple of months. You can come back and finish up one of your semesters and come back and get me. So she and I went through this process about 3 or 4 times during my 2 year program. And
Wow.
I would hang out there in India.
Yeah.
Now, for 4 decades, I had not been back, Jane, because I didn't want to be Indian. I didn't want to be identified with India. India in the 1960s, when we
Yeah.
came to the United States, was really not a cool place to be. It was considered dirty and hot, and there's garbage on the streets, and people are dying of starvation. And that was the impression that most people had of India. And so I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to be associated with that. So I never wanted to go back. But my mother was asking me if I would go. So I said, okay, I will take you, Mom.
Yeah.
He and I went. And she shows me her India, what she loves about India, and seeing it through her eyes, all the beautiful colors and the energy of the people and how warm they are, and how, even the tiniest little handicraft, like this pen I'm about to show you, even a tiny little pen like
Oh,
this,
wow.
which
Look
is
at
made by
that.
hand. Yeah,
Yeah.
even tiny little things like this have
Yeah.
so much craft in them, and
Yeah.
people pay attention to the tiniest little pieces of art. And so my artistic
Yeah.
sensibilities were really exploding when we were in India. And I just thought, oh, I could write stories. I could write this story. I could write that story.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was asking my mother all these questions about her life, things that I had never
Ah.
thought to ask her. Mom, what was your life like when you were a kid? The kind of questions that you're asking me. What
Yeah.
was it like when you were small? What did you
Yeah.
like to do? Who did you hang out with? Who were your friends? My mother starts telling me all of this. And I realize, wow, my mother had such a different life. She just didn't have any agency in her life at all. She knew
Yeah.
from the time she was tiny that she was going to have an arranged marriage with somebody she had never met before, probably. And she wasn't going to get to decide whether she wanted to have kids or not, or however many she
Mm.
wanted to have. These are just things that she would have to live with. She would
Mm.
have to walk 5 paces behind her husband because that was
Mm.
considered respectful. She
Mm.
would never call him by his first name because that was considered
Mm.
disrespectful to do that.
Mm.
She would always be saying okay to whatever it is that he wanted to do. She would have to say, all right, great, we'll do it that way.
Mm.
Her role was to have children and to make his dinner. That's basically my mother's job. And when I realized how differently she has raised me, I said, Mom, but you raised me to be so different from everything I see here in India.
Mm.
Your aunts, your sisters, my uncles, they're all so different from the way that you raised me and my
Mm.
brothers. You raised us with so much independence. And you
Mm.
said to us, that we could be whatever we wanted to be. We could marry whomever we wanted. We could major in whatever we wanted. You weren't going to force us to become engineers and doctors like a lot of,
Yeah. And lawyers. Yeah.
immigrant
Yeah.
parents do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, how did that happen? And she said, well, I just wanted you all to have the power that I didn't have because
Mm.
I think you deserve better than I had. And so I was like, oh my God, now I understand why my mother took me to the doctor and got me birth control pills when I went off to college because
Oh,
she's like,
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She said, honey, I don't want you to get pregnant. Whatever, whatever you decide to do, this is your time in life to experiment. Okay. You're going to go away to college, thousands of miles away. You're going to be independent. You get to make a lot of decisions for yourself. You may decide to sleep with people. You may decide to,
Wow.
go off and do this
Yeah.
or smoke pot or whatever it is that's
Yeah.
happening. And this is, the 70s. So there's a lot of pot smoking going on.
Yeah.
And so my mother said, I just want you to be baby free because
Yeah.
you need to have options in your life if you're going to decide how your life's going to pan out in a way that, she didn't get a chance to
Mm.
say that, she didn't want to have children right away or she wanted to
Mm.
wait for a while or whatever. And so yeah, so I think that my mother just raised me so differently, and I was just curious, like, how did this happen? And then I thought, I owe her this huge debt of gratitude. What if I created a character that looks like my mother, but then gets to do all the things my mother didn't get to do?
Mm.
So I created this character called Lakshmi, and
Mm.
she has abandoned her marriage and decided to remain child free so she can have all these other options in life.
Yeah.
And she makes a living as a henna artist and an herbal healer, which are two things that I thought if my mother could have had a life of her own, if she could have had a business of her own, I think these are two things that she could have done and probably been very successful at it because she has the main character's demeanor. She's very elegant. She knows how to talk to people. She knows how to get them to do what she wants them to do very indirectly. So I thought, I think this is what I'm going to write about. So I said, Mom, I'm writing this book called A Henna Artist, and it's about you. And my mom
Wow.
said, oh, that's nice. That's nice, honey. Thank you.
Wow. That's amazing. Is your mom still with us today?
No, she died
Oh.
shortly after I left the program. So I got my thesis. My
Mm,
mother was present at my thesis reading, and as soon as I left school, she said, "Okay, now, honey, you have to take me to the doctor." So I'm taking her to doctor. She needs an operation. There's one operation, then there's another. My mother is in hospital for a long time. Then she's in hospice, and then she died. And
mm,
so I really thought that at that point I was going to stop writing altogether because I wrote the book for her.
mm,
And and luckily, I had some instructors who wouldn't let me stop writing.
mm.
So that is how I kept continuing the journey. Otherwise, clients had been starting to call me and said, "Okay, now that the recession is over, we have projects we'd like you to do." I just thought I would be going back to marketing and advertising. But
Yeah.
there were people who always believed in my writing, including my husband, right? It all started with my husband saying, "Honey, you could write this stuff.
Mm,
You're a good storyteller."
mm.
And then to have my instructors in the program, validate that, that was really something. And then to not have them let go of the project, that was really something too.
Wow. Thanks for
We all
sharing,
need
Alka.
champions. We
Yeah.
all need champions in our lives. And I think that what happens sometimes as women is that we can feel kind of alone,
Yeah.
like nobody else is going through this the way I am. And
Yeah.
so, first of all, I better not burden other people with my problem.
Yeah.
Um, and then also, we think, no, I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be strong
Yeah.
enough to deal with
Yeah.
all of this. I'm supposed to be a
Yeah.
wife and a mother and a worker bee, and I
Yeah.
can make all of this stuff happen. So why would I admit that I'm failing at something?
Yeah.
So I would love for all women to know that they are not alone. They are not
Yeah.
alone. There are so many
Yes.
people who want to help us. So many people.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for sharing your journey. I'm really sorry to hear about your mom, but very thankful that you persevered through the Henna Artist and then subsequently the three books that followed. How far into the Henna Artist were you when your mom passed? When when you weren't sure whether if you were going to finish it or not?
So probably 3 years into the henna artist, and then it took me another 7.5 years before it was published.
Wow. And how much of that experience in your personal life shaped the way the book itself ultimately transformed?
Um, I think that the majority of the story was there.
Yeah,
The story didn't change fundamentally, but some of the details changed.
yeah,
And some of the way that the characters transformed throughout the story changed as well.
yeah,
Um, I think that I had some really, really good feedback from my earlier instructors, my agent, who was very instrumental in helping me uh, make the story more concise.
yeah,
She said, "Okay, right now, Alka, you have got a chapter on one character, and then you do another chapter on another character, and then you go back and forth, alternating between these two characters." She said, "You're not experienced enough to carry two characters like that. You
mm,
really need to focus on one character and then leave the other person,
yeah,
make them
to their
minor."
own. Yeah,
Yeah. And she said, when you are just the novice starting out, you have to make that first book sing. If you don't make it sing, we're not going to make you a full time author. And you
mm,
want to be a full time author. She said, "I know you can do this."
mm,
So at first, I didn't want to believe her. And I said, "No, no, no, I'm going to keep both characters exactly the way they are, but I'm going to make this better so that you can tell me I've done it." Right.
mm,
So I'm still the good girl in school. I'm going to tell my
yeah,
teacher,
yeah, yeah,
how I'm going to make it right.
yeah.
And so I tried. I sent it back to her, another revision, and she said no. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to try it one more time. One more time." I try it with both these characters being as strong as one another. And she said, "No." And I said, "Oh my God, you know what this means? I have to go all the way back to page one, and I have to write the entire story from one person's point of view." And she told
Wow.
me, she said,
Yeah,
"Lakshmi is the compelling character. You're going to have to write everything from Lakshmi's point of view."
yeah,
So I start all over again. The
Yeah.
story stays the same, but now the focus is on
Yeah.
Lakshmi. And Malik and Radha, the two other main characters, sort of become more of the minor characters,
Mm.
her supporting characters.
Mm.
So, and that I could tell once I got done with that draft, that
Yeah.
was a much stronger story. She was
Yeah.
absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
And then she had me work on, she said, your epilogue is like 20 pages and it's 10 years into the future. We don't need that right now. We
Yeah.
just need to know what's going to happen to this character in the next 6 months of her life.
Yeah.
So I cut out all of that 20 pages. I cut out all the future stories I had written about these people, and I just focused on that. Um, so she had me do these kinds of things over about 3 or 4 years. And then I got so frustrated and I said, when are you going to send this off to the publisher? She said, oh, you're not ready to have this sent off to the publisher. I said, what? We've been working on this for like 7 years now. I have been working on it for 7 years, maybe not with you, but 7 years total. And so she goes, no, 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 you need a professional editor. I said, I thought you were my professional editor. This is how naive I was. I didn't even understand what an agent's role
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And she said, no, 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 I am just your agent. I've just been working with you on this novel because I love it, but you need a professional editor to tell you what's missing. I can't see anymore what's missing. I'm too close to it, as
Mm.
are you. So she gave me, a couple of lists of editors, and I called two of them. I sent them my manuscript. You have to pay, right? So now for the first time, I'm having to pay these people to give me feedback. They give me feedback, but the feedback is all about the fact that I'm not ready yet, that I
Mm.
still have this much more work to do. So each of
Mm.
them is telling me their vision.
Mm.
Some of it differs, some of it is the same.
Mm.
And at that point, I gave up writing. I just said,
Ooh.
no. I said, this is ridiculous. I said,
Yeah.
you know what? I am tenacious, but this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have been at this for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Surely by now,
Yeah.
I should be publishing something.
Yeah.
Year goes by, and I ran across that novel in my office. And at that time, we used to have to print out the entire PDF instead of emailing it, right? Now we can just email everything. And so I have this huge, stack of papers I'm looking at with the comments attached from those independent editors. And I just thought, oh my God, I can't believe I spent so much time on this novel. It's never going to see the light of day. And then some little voice in my head said, maybe this is a message. You saw this, you're reading the comments from the editors. Why don't you take another crack at it? Just take another crack. Just see if there's anything you can do from what these people told you you should do.
Mm.
So I go back into it, but I'm working full tilt on my business. And so it takes me a year to go through all the changes that they want me to make and then to present a new version, because some of it required rewriting, maybe a
Yeah.
whole chapter.
Yeah.
So I sent it all back and I said, Emma, it's been 9 years since I first started working on this novel. And I really need you to send this off to the publishers, because if you don't, then I quit. This is it. I've
Yeah.
done everything you asked me to do. I don't know what more I can do. I'm done. I think she sensed how frustrated I was at that point. And so she said, okay, I'll send it off. She did. And then we got, she would have loved to have an auction with many, many different publishers
Mm.
bidding on it because she loved
Mm.
the story so much. But that didn't happen. We only got the one offer from HarperCollins. So we sold it. And then I got a new editor at HarperCollins, Kathy. She was the acquiring editor, and she had ideas on what more I should be changing. And I went ahead and did that because now I had the signed contract. I knew this was going to become a book. And
Mm.
as soon as I got that signed contract, I decided I was going to be a full-time writer. I don't know
Wow.
how I knew that. I just knew I was going to be a full-time writer. I can't even tell you how or why,
Yeah.
but some little instinct in me said, okay, it's time. You
Yeah.
need to hang up your shingle now. You need to give away whatever projects you have because you've got to focus on the henna artist. And that's what
Yeah.
I did.
That's amazing. Wow. I mean, you were running your own business at the time, right, Alka? It's not like you were doing a day job that you dreaded. It was still a
Right.
passion project that you were doing. Like, why did you choose the book rather than the business? Or why couldn't you do
Yeah.
both? Why did you have to give one
Well,
up?
Jane, I think I was at the point where I was getting kind of tired of advertising things that I didn't believe in.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I was getting kind of tired of just the whole game of corporate
Yeah. No, I
speak
totally understand. Yeah.
and all those acronyms you have to get used to and people acting all pompous and high and mighty because they have this position that's paying them a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I was really ready for something.
Yeah.
So when I got that contract, I thought, this is it. I get to use my imagination all the time now.
Yeah.
This is all mine. The henna
Yeah.
artist is all mine. This is not a client doesn't really have a hand in this. I have
Yeah.
suggestions from people, but even
Yeah.
suggestions are just very vague, like, oh, make Lakshmi the main character. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a vague suggestion.
Yeah.
Nobody tells you exactly how to do that, but you yourself get to use your imagination to make sure that that happens. And that really appealed to me. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, finally I could breathe. I
Yeah.
could just have it exactly the way that I wanted to create something.
When was this when you decided to be a full-time writer?
2018.
Wow. Okay. So it's been
20,
5 years now.
yes.
How has it transformed your life?
Um, I wouldn't say that it's actually transformed my life because we still live in the same
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
I did have a chance to remodel the house, which I did.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and I bought myself a Porsche, which
Oh,
I,
okay.
I didn't have before. Um,
How
but
did it
other than
transform your inner life, I should say?
my inner life, okay, maybe a couple of things. I am more confident now of my ability to communicate what I
Mm,
am thinking and feeling. I feel that I have more trust in my instinct, my gut instinct
mm,
about what is the right way to talk about something or communicate something than not. Um, I think that I am so much happier now in terms of presenting my work to the world because it's mine. It's like other people didn't say to me, you've got to write this story. It's got to be about this and this and this. I also have an opportunity to talk about the things that I firmly believe in, the kinds of things that you can't really talk about in polite conversation. For example, the right of women to do whatever they want with their lives. If you somehow break it into a conversation that you're just having with friends, they might think you're strident. They might think you're too much of a feminist. They might think you're too assertive. They might think, all of those kinds
or
of
they
things.
might think you're a murderer. Take it to an extreme, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. But now, through my fiction, I can
Mm,
talk about women's agency. I can talk about abortion. I can
mm,
talk about contraception. I can talk about adoption. I can talk about raising children or not raising children, women deciding to do all kinds of different things in their lives. These are things I have fundamentally believed in for so long and lived my life,
mm,
demonstrating all of these kinds of things. But
mm.
I never could really come out and talk about it openly. But isn't it interesting? I can do it in the uh, comfort of a within a fiction
Yeah.
story. I can couch all of these ideas that I believe in my characters, and people will talk about it at that moment. Then they'll talk about that character and what they decided to do or not decided to do.
Yeah. As an introvert who enjoys your own company, you get to become other people's champion
Yeah,
because you are unearthing something that has been sitting quietly in other people's hearts and minds and unable to be exposed. And in doing so, you are making other people, a migrant who came from Indonesia, who lives in Australia. I can definitely relate to a lot of the things that you have put out there in the world and as a result feeling less lonely but
Yes.
also more importantly, feeling more empowered.
Yes. Oh, that's a beautiful way to put it, Jane. Wow, feeling less lonely and also more empowered. I love that. Yes.
Yeah,
You feel seen, you feel heard,
exactly.
you feel like, oh, there's somebody else out there who thinks like I do.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it's okay to be feeling that way. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with me. And in fact, it's okay to be
Yeah.
feeling that way or to wanting to live your life a certain
Yes.
way.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
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 Ah.
I love that. I love that. And then, there's also in most of my books, there is the relationship between men and women, right?
Mm,
Uh, uh, Coming together. And, uh, you know, for me, whenever I read books that were by men, I never really believed the love stories between men and women
mm,
and sort of how they physically get together. So in my books, I get to actually have the kind of physical relationship that I think is interesting, that I think is really worth, exploring. So those intimacies that I get to write about, I never thought I could write about stuff like that. I mean, who
mm.
could share that kind of stuff with anybody, right? Not even with our best friends might we share things like that. But in my writing, I can do it through characters, like I'm
Yeah.
I'm sort of hiding behind a character. So it's really, really fun. I find the whole process of writing really fun. Now, that is not to say it's not hard. It is hard. It
Mm,
is very hard to sustain a level of engagement and tension throughout 300, 400 pages. That is hard. And you have to revise and revise and revise. You have to keep reading what you've written and think, I think that word is not the right word. I need to search for a word that might be better in this
mm,
context. Or I think that this character is not quite communicating the transformation that they have just gone through. How can I better communicate that? So it is work. You are constantly having to revise your work to make it more understandable to a lot of people. Here's something that people ask me all the time. Do you write for a particular audience? Like,
mm,
are you conscious of whom
mm,
you're writing for?
mm,
No,
mm.
Jane, I'm writing for me. I am writing a story that I find interesting,
Yeah,
characters whom I find engaging.
yeah,
And how wonderful to know that there's all these millions of people out there who also find the same
yeah,
characters engaging and interesting. And
yeah,
then I don't feel so alone.
yeah,
Okay. I don't feel like I have just created some unique, yeah, a
yeah.
unicorn. This is not a unicorn. This People can relate to these characters. People can understand them and say, "Ah, oh, man, I feel so much better to know that there are people like me in this world."
Mm. And I think that's what great arts do, right? Whether if it's fiction, novel, if it's painting,
Yeah.
or even songs, it's
Yes.
because we can relate to it in one way or
Yes.
another.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, One other thing that I think an inner transformation that has taken place is not only am I talking about subjects that I think are very important to me,
Mm,
but I'm also writing about why women are so strong and how they make everything around them stronger. They solidify relationships, they solidify families. They are the backbone of almost everything that we
mm,
pull together. And so I get to write about these women who are doing extraordinary things, even though they might be leading an ordinary life. They are holding fast to their sense of self, their dignity. I think that is so important. Even my readers, when I do these, book clubs, and I've done 1,000 book clubs so far, but even my readers will say things like, did these kind of women really exist back in the 1920s or the 30s or the 40s or 50s or whatever time period I'm writing about? And I'm like, yes, these women are you. You
Mm.
are these women.
Mm.
We have all been
Mm.
very strong, whether we know it or not. We've been very capable. For some reason, we doubt ourselves way more than men do. We doubt ourselves. We say, no, we're not all that, but we are. And I would want for all these women who are reading these books. I have male audiences too, but they tend not to write to me as much as the females do. Um, but we have all these talents that go unnoticed, that go unrecognized, and we don't promote enough of ourselves to say, I am all of these things. I am strong. I am funny. I am capable. I am, financially also adept. I can do all these things. Um, and I want women to feel that through these characters. I want them to own it, own it.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Um, have you heard of the term a third culture kid, Alka?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
For the first time, I heard it for the first time this year.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I heard it for the first time 2 years ago when a friend explained to me. So I'm a third culture kid. My grandparents came from China. They moved to Indonesia. That's where they had my parents. My parents had me in Indonesia, so I'm Chinese Indonesian, but now I live in Australia. And now my kids are Australian, Chinese, Indonesian, whatever. Right? So as a third culture kid, we are an embodiment of, this multicultural elements. How has it played out in your life and how has it transformed your work as well as a
Oh,
result?
okay. So, like me,
Yeah.
you probably, Jane, can relate on both an Eastern and a Western perspective in
Mm.
almost everything that you see around you, interpret around you, communicate
Yeah.
about you and about everything that you're experiencing. So, you and I, we can look at our first culture or the second culture from the perspective we have now in the West,
Mm.
but we can also look at the Western culture from our Eastern heritage.
Mm.
I think that is so valuable. That is so valuable because we are able to look at both parts of ourselves critically. And
Mm.
I think being able to look at yourself critically, your family critically, your heritage critically, those those are very important and necessary things so that we don't sugarcoat anything, so that we don't gloss over
Yeah.
the unattractive parts of ourselves. I
Yeah.
think that it's important for us to face the good, the bad, and the ugly about ourselves, our cultures, whatever cultures we are embroiled in at the moment. I think we have to be able to look at all of that, as a whole, as a you know. Uh, I think that one of the things that I've been able to do because I do so much research for all of my historical fiction. I want people who are reading this in India and across the Indian diaspora globally. I want them to look at the work and say, "This feels real. This is
Mm.
real."
Mm.
And this is the India I knew, or India I know, or my mother knew, or my grandmother knew, or whatever. I don't ever want them to look at my work and go, "Oh, she's just a Westerner. She's
Yeah.
approaching this from just a purely Western,
Yeah.
perspective." So they can dismiss me. I never
Yeah.
wanted anybody to dismiss what I am saying.
Mm.
So I do all this research, and in doing the research, I found out so much about what colonialism does to countries like the
Mm.
countries we come from. So,
Mm.
what does it do to people's psyche in that area?
Mm.
What does it do to the resources of that area? Why do colonizers come to a certain country? How does it impact the women of that country? So as I did my research, I was able to incorporate those kinds of learnings into the novels, into the
Mm.
stories. And that has helped me communicate that historical perspective
Mm.
to people in the West
Yeah.
and the East who may
Yeah.
not ever be aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is a really important part of what I am doing.
Yeah.
It may look to an outsider like a frivolous story, but what I'm really trying to do is to
Yeah.
couch a storyline with very significant issues about women in a setting
Yeah.
that really helps people understand
Yeah.
why a certain country and when certain people react a certain way or live a certain way,
Yeah.
and how their history with that colonizer really impacted that.
Yeah, it is so multi-layered. I love the way you set your story as well. I found it interesting. A lot of history about India that I wasn't aware of, that are important for every one of us, whether if we came from, West or Eastern culture, to acknowledge that hopefully we can continue to learn, especially in the current condition of the world that we live in.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with China, same thing with Indonesia,
Mm.
all of the Europeans who came through looking
Yeah.
for whatever it is they wanted
Mm.
from those countries left
Mm.
their impact
Oh yeah.
on the people, the way that they saw themselves, and on, how they decided to conduct their lives after the colonizers left. It made a huge
Mm.
difference.
Mm.
So, my dad, for instance, my dad is just a great guy. He's just fabulous. And he's 93 and he is still very much alive. And he has contributed so much to my knowledge of what was happening in India, not only because of his personal experiences, but also because he's constantly sending me reference material that I might want to read and,
Oh,
get a
nice.
better understanding on. But he has, always, like the other day, he said to me, he goes, honey, they called them world wars, World War One and World War Two, but they weren't world wars. They were
Mm.
wars brought on by Europeans
Mm.
in other parts of the world. It wasn't as if the entire world was at war.
Mm.
And man, just even having somebody change your frame of reference
Mm.
on something like that is so important. And I
Mm.
thought, oh my God, he's right. He's right. It's not India that went to war with the world. It was the Britishers in India
Mm.
who co-opted
Mm.
the Indian police and made them part of their army, and then took
Mm.
that army to Burma and, to all parts of Europe to fight on their
Yeah.
behalf.
Yeah. To fight the fight that they had no involvement in. Yeah. I think you covered that on 6 Days in Bombay. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether if I can ask you this question,
Okay.
but if you have to choose just one, what would be your favorite book that you've written so far and why?
Well, I think it's hard.
It's like,
It's sort of
which is
like,
your favorite child, right?
yes, exactly. But I think I would probably, well, okay, so maybe for different reasons, I would say this. The Henna Artist, because it was my first, and I think maybe the first child, the way that you,
I mean, 10
you know,
years, that's a long
yeah,
time to
yeah,
birth a child.
10 years gestation period.
Yeah.
I really lived with those characters for so long. And so I love all of those characters. And in carrying them through to The Secret Keeper of Jaipur and The Perfumist of Paris, for me, that's all of a one story. That's
Yep.
all those same people. And I love all those people so much.
Yeah.
6 Days in Bombay was really interesting for me because the character of Sona, the nurse, who is very insular
Yep.
and shy and naive at the beginning of the story, and really comes into her own by the end of the story. Um, I think that is the closest to my life. The way that I came about as a shy girl, just wanting to do well and do all the things that I'm supposed to be doing, and then realizing there's a whole world out there and I can maybe make up my own rules about how I want to be. So Sona is the closest to me. And
Mm.
so I think for that reason, I might also then choose 6 Days in Bombay.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think the Henna Artist is, well, it's your homage to your mom and her
Yeah.
life's work, right? And 6 Days in Bombay is your own maybe self-portrait of
Yeah.
how you see
Oh, yeah.
yourself to be.
Oh, that's a really good way of looking at it. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because I can't think about the henna artist without thinking of my mother. It's true.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there you go.
But
I
I
have,
also,
yeah.
by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but mother-daughter relationships are at the heart of so many of my novels.
Mm,
And I think that mother-daughter relationships are super, super important. And I think it's the mother who shows the daughter what her potential is. So I hope that for all the moms that are out there listening, that they know what a tremendous impact they are having on their daughters and how they can really imbue them with so much agency and so much freedom to think and create whatever it is they want to create in their lives.
oh, thank you, Alka. It's
Yeah.
exactly why I started the Breadwinning Mums podcast. It's to
Oh,
show the mums that it's okay to be a mum, but also have that self-agency, self-realization. It's okay to do both. And
right.
hopefully that can translate to how their children see themselves as well.
Right. And what do you think about this? There is
Mm.
a lot of guilt that mothers have right now
Hmm.
because they are choosing to do it all, because they're
Yeah.
choosing to have children. They want
Yeah.
children, but then they also want to have their own thing that makes
Yeah.
them feel important and whole.
Yeah.
How do we get rid of the guilt? I want women to just not feel the guilt. I hear it all the time from friends. They just feel
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah.
Whether
Yeah, that if you had to really boil it down to why I started the Breadwinning Moms is to overcome that guilt. I used to when my daughter was I think 1.5 to 2, I used to draw little hearts on her hand just before I leave
oh,
because she would
oh,
say, "Oh, mom, don't go to work, just stay at home and stay with me." And I said, "Okay, let me just draw those hearts. Every time you miss me, just press on the heart, close your eyes, and say." I
oh,
miss you, mummy, and I'll see you soon.
oh
That
my
was the guilt
God.
that kept
Oh,
reverberating as I go to work. As I spoke with more and more women who are juggling both work and life demands, the one thing that I took with me was whatever it is that you are doing, just be all there. When you're at
mm,
work, be all there. When you're at home, be all there. But make
mhm.
sure that whatever you are doing, be present for what it is that you have chosen to do. And I think
Yeah,
that's probably that works for me so far. And then it's up to you how you're going to,
yeah,
manage the time.
yeah, yeah. I
Mm.
mean, men have children and they have work.
Yeah, but
So
they don't
why
feel the
can
guilt.
no, they
No,
don't feel the guilt. Why
no.
do we feel, why do women feel the guilt? I don't understand it. So,
Societal expectations, I guess. Or maybe, I'm not sure.
well, I think sometimes I think we women work against each other, right?
Yeah.
I think that those who are at home, and we are finding this out, more and more, that those who chose to remain at home and work, basically it's
Be a
still work,
homemaker.
whatever you're
Yeah.
doing, right? So
Yeah.
they're working at home with their children.
Yeah.
They might, feel left out of the working world, and so they might make the women who are at work feel a little guilty. Um, and it's so easy for women to feel guilty. All we need is a little nudge, and we are full blown into the guilt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's just part of our DNA.
Uh, maybe it's a people pleaser as well. I'm not sure why guys don't have it. My son doesn't have a people pleasing need at all, whereas my daughter, she does need to, make sure that people around her are comfortable. But
Oh,
hopefully, as we are more and more aware of this, we can show our daughters in the world that it's okay not to people please, that they can choose exactly what you're doing. They can choose the trajectory of their life, and it's totally okay. It's totally
yeah,
okay not to have kids and
yeah,
be an accomplished author. Totally
yeah. Thank
fine.
you.
Draw in your Porsche and, write more and more novels.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. These are my babies. These are
Yeah,
my
exactly. Yeah, and they're doing an amazing work
and they
in
don't talk back to me.
Talking about your babies, I'm currently in the middle of reading your 6 Days in Bombay. I
Uh-huh.
read Henna Artist and The Perfumist.
Yeah.
Um, but 6 Days in Bombay, I thought was a lot more nuanced and complex and multi-layered, especially when you were writing about Gayatri Kaur. You said, I could see that pride was her birthright. You explained her, you described her so well. Here was a woman who thought well of herself. She
Mhm.
would be defiant. She would insist on being treated like an equal.
Mhm.
And then you wrote, they smiled at each other. Was it one of happiness or relief or bravado? Two people who didn't know one another would start a journey of discovering how to be with one another and in what measure they would love and lie.
Oh my gosh, did I write that?
I'm like, can I just like, that's so powerful. Wow.
Wow.
Can you talk a little bit more into that? There's so much written in just a short paragraph, but there's so much in that.
Sometimes when I write, it's as if it's as if something has come through me and I am just typing as quickly as I can,
Yeah.
whatever it is that's coming through me. Like
Yeah.
as you're reading that, I'm thinking, I wrote that. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I really like the way that that sounds.
You're channeling a higher power.
I am channeling a higher power. But yeah, I think that yeah, two people start their life together and wow. I'm not even sure I can speak to that, Jane. It's
It
just
was
like
so deep.
I'm still stunned.
Yeah. It was so deep. I love that you had the last sentence, in what measure they would love and lie. I think a lot of people go into marriage with this naive expectation that it'll be happily ever after, but we
Yes.
forget that that's probably just the beginning of the journey.
Yes, yes. In the beginning of the journey, sometimes in the beginning of the journey, it's almost as if we have those rose-colored glasses on. We are presenting the best of ourselves. They're presenting the best of themselves. So everything is lovey-dovey, and we just can't wait to be around them again. And then little by little, we realize, oh, they're a human being too. I don't
Yeah.
really like this thing about them. Oh, maybe they don't like this thing about me.
Yeah.
And so then you start feeling a little defensive, self-conscious, critical, all of those kinds of things. And then you start lying, but in little ways. They're like those little white lies, like, honey, does this bother you
Yeah.
about me? Oh, no, 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 it doesn't bother me at all. Meanwhile, you're
Yeah.
thinking, oh my God, I can't stand it when he's gnashing his teeth like that. Uh, so, in order to just live with other people, we
Yeah.
do, love and lie, I think, in equal measure. We do.
Yeah.
We do. To accommodate other people in our lives, we kind of have to compromise.
Yeah.
Yes. Those ways.
Yeah. It's so deep. I love it.
What page is that on? Because I'm going to look that up. I'm going to read it
Um,
again.
I was reading it on my phone, but I'll find out the exact
Okay.
page number on the
Okay.
book. Yeah, but I'll be happy to send a screenshot your way. Um, let me check. Oh yes, and also you're writing about Petra.
Uh-huh.
When Petra received the painting
Yeah.
and she looked at Mira's scroll, Mira's note. This reminds me of the young girls we once were, she pointed to the subjects. I know these girls are Indian, but in their faces, I see our young selves just before we changed. A time when we trusted our fathers and mothers because we didn't know them well enough.
Yes.
Again, just like it's just a
Yes.
sentence, but it says
Yes.
so much. It's so
Do you
deep.
do you remember that moment, the first time that you just believe your mom
Yeah,
and dad? are
Yeah.
always telling you the truth, because that's just the way you come into this world. You just go, I trust them, they
Yeah.
love me. And then the first time that you catch them saying something that
Yeah.
you know not to be true,
Yeah.
and it's a total shock.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
why? Like, first of all, why did they just do that? And
Yeah.
then secondly, why is it okay for them to do that? And they're always telling me I have to tell the truth all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you realize that the world is made up of hypocrisy, but
Yeah.
maybe the hypocrisy is there to protect us sometimes. It's not necessarily there to hurt us, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just there to protect us. And maybe that little untruth was a necessary untruth
Yeah.
to hurt, to protect someone's feelings.
Yeah. And that maybe our parents are not, these amazing, perfect beings that we knew them to be as well.
Mm-hmm. I did not like that, by the way. I did not like learning that my
Yeah.
parents were not perfect. I remember having a really hard time with that.
How old were
Yeah.
you when you knew this?
Well, um, so I was 10.
Oh, wow. Early enough.
Yeah.
That's quite early.
And remember, see, I was always watching. I was always
Yeah.
observing and looking, and I see this thing happening between my parents, and I'm like, oh, I know what's going on. I know that they are not
Yeah.
telling each other the truth, because I saw what happened when they weren't there, and I know
Yeah.
they're not doing that.
Yeah.
And I just remember being so, I don't know why was I so devastated? It's just, I mean, now I think, well, it was just normal, right? It's just normal that people do those kinds of things. But I just remember being really devastated that my parents were not perfect.
Yeah. Little moments of innocent gone by as the
Mhm,
world is showing us how imperfect the world is.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you encapsulated again nuances of the world quite elegantly.
I love the fact that you are reading my book so carefully and isolating these little passages
Yeah, it
that,
just jumps up. It's just like, wow, that's so true and so profound. And here it is, just laid out on a sentence, or here it is laid out on a paragraph.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really wanted in that book is for people to realize that there are many parts of ourselves, and we only show one part of ourselves really to people we barely know, because it would take, years to really get to know all the different parts of us, and maybe we're only going to be with them for a short time. And so when Sona, the nurse, is with her patient Mira at the hospital, they're only together for 6 days. Sona only sees what Mira is showing her, which
Mm,
is, I'm a vibrant woman. I have, lived all over the world. I am confident in myself, and I'm a great painter. Okay. But then she gives Sona the opportunity to travel to Europe to meet with old friends of hers who actually know different sides of her. And for Sona to give Sona the license to get to
mm,
know all the other parts of Mira is really giving her license to know the good, bad, and the ugly.
mm,
And then when Sona does, it is disappointing to her to know that Mira was not
mm.
all that she presented herself to be in the beginning. But I think it also helped Sona grow up and
Yeah.
realize that the world has many faces, and we just have to navigate which ones we want to surround ourselves with and
Yeah.
which ones we don't.
Yeah. Amazing. And I think it gives us the license to embrace different parts of ourselves, those we love and those we don't love as much.
Yeah.
Um, and give ourselves the agency to choose which one we want to focus in as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so at the moment you're a full-time author. You have a Netflix series coming up. You have um a lot of things are going on as well in terms of your book. How are you juggling work and family lives?
Well, let's see. I traveled a lot this time. I think that this was probably the year that I traveled the most because now with four books, I'm constantly being asked by different festivals and like the Forbes Women's Summit in Abu Dhabi and just all over the world. I'm talking about books or women's empowerment or um, Amrita Shergill, the artist, and so on. Um, when that happens, I get a little out of sync with my exercise life. And so, I'm not doing as much yoga when I'm traveling. I'm not doing as much. I'm not going to the swimming pool. I'm in different time zones all the time. And sometimes I'm not getting the sleep that I want. So I think this year I probably gained like 8 pounds and I'm
Oh,
kind of
wow.
upset. I'm upset with myself about it. But I know I'll lose it again when things calm down. But uh, other than that, I think life is, pretty good. And I have friends who always reach out and go, okay, so are you still way too busy or do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to, go have lunch? You want to do this? You want to do that? So I'm very lucky in that, I have people who actually want to spend time with me. I like my husband, so it's nice to be able to
That's
spend
good.
time with him.
Yeah.
Uh, and what else? And I love where we live. We live in the Monterey area in California, so it's always beautiful here. And we're by the water. We walk a lot along the water, and there's otters and seals and whales and all of that. And so I don't have any desire to like go traveling everywhere in the world. I don't really like crave traveling any more than I already have. I've traveled so much in my life, and I did a lot of my international travel in my 20s and 30s, so that I really enjoy being home.
Mm.
So it's a real treat now to be home.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. If you could give your younger self one advice, let's go back to that young Alka who's about to move to the US from India,
Yeah, yeah.
knowing all of the wealth of knowledge that you know now. What one advice would you give that young Alka?
Don't take yourself so seriously.
Hmm.
Don't take yourself so seriously. Relax, have more fun. Um, be, be easy around people. Have more fun with people. Don't be hiding yourself away. Um, and you'll probably have a lot more fun earlier on. Like I feel like I'm having a lot more fun now, but I think all of those years that I was so serious and so like I wanted to have a career and I wanted to excel and I wanted to wear my suits and go to meetings and be impressive in the boardroom and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just think, oh, I should have just relaxed about all of that. I think it would have happened anyway, regardless.
Yeah.
It would have just happened anyway. I didn't have to be so serious around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And one question that I always ask all guests in the show is what is your alpha mom song? So you're a mom to two really cute dogs, right? What breed are they?
Yes. Yes. Um, okay, so I have two songs I picked out.
Okay.
One is Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive.
Oh yeah.
And for me, even though the song is about a man who is no longer in her life, and the woman is saying, I'm going to survive regardless of, his presence. I think for me, what that song really means is I will survive my self-doubt. I will survive my moments of low self-esteem. I will survive my um, uncertainty about my future. I will survive all of that. So that's one song. And the other one is Sheryl Crow's A Change Will Do You Good. Because I think whenever I have had a major change in my life, and I've had so many, right? Moving to the United States was a big change. Starting my own business was a big change. Getting married is a big change. Turning into an author is a big change. Every time I've had a change in my life, it has always led to something really positive. And so I do think that changes in our lives do us good, whether or not they are painful. Sometimes they are painful. Okay, I've also gone through a separation, with somebody I loved a long time ago, and it just seemed like so painful at the time. But eventually, you find that the one door closed and another door opened up for you. So I firmly believe in changes for the better.
Amazing. I had a few pertinent questions and or quote from your book, The Perfumist of Paris, that I found highly relatable to most breadwinning parents, but in particular breadwinning mums. Would we be able to go through some quotes from your book?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So the first one was the quote from Rada. And she said, when Pierre leaves on a trip for his work, as he did this week, I'm expected to understand and adapt. He makes an announcement, not a request for understanding or permission. While he's away, I am to make sure the girls eat a healthy dinner, do their homework, get fresh air, and exercise, and tell me about their day. She was also talking about Lakshmi. She said, having run a successful business as a henna artist on her own, Lakshmi understands the satisfaction a woman feels when she is recognized and appreciated for skills she has taken care to develop. I wish my husband could have reacted the same way. I think that's something that a lot of breadwinning mums can relate. And I'm not sure whether if it's a gender thing, but I feel like at least for my generation and your generation, the generation that have started with the whole feminism wave of feminism, I feel like as female, we have been empowered to do a lot more things that were not previously allowed or available from the previous generation. But also the men haven't been educated or taught to adapt to this new reality or to this new possibility.
Yes.
Would you mind sharing your perspective on this?
I think that while women kept progressing and kept thinking about what they considered equality at home and in the workplace, men thought that what that meant was we'll just allow more women to work with us.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if we would now realize that our own wives were also going to want to work outside of the home, and that maybe our wives needed that same kind of respect and equality from us. Somehow, I think that the men didn't quite realize that it applied to them individually.
Yeah.
Whereas I always think that women are very quick to understand the subtext of what is going on. And the subtext was that for them was that if I also want the same things that a man is allowed to have in this world, great pay for a job that they're skilled and qualified for, then why wouldn't I just be accepted into that environment? Why wouldn't I just be automatically granted the money the way the men are, the raises, the promotions? Why wouldn't I just be respected in the boardroom and in meetings the way they are? They all listen to one another. So now I guess it's my turn and I will also be listened to. Well, that just didn't translate into the male sphere.
Yeah.
I think that even though men realized that they needed to publicly say that they were going to allow a lot of this equality to take place, that they were not actually ready to understand what that meant and hadn't even thought about what that might mean. And once again, like even the words that I'm using, that the men allowed us into their workspace feels as if they have so much power. They have the power to keep us out or to let us in. And all we were saying was, why don't you just accord us the same respect, the same opportunities, the same everything that you have? It's a very different conversation. But I think they looked at it as we are allowing them. We are so gracious to allow women into our workspaces, and that now they should follow our rules. And our rules are, okay, so you can be here, you can sit in the corner over there, and you can watch us do what we do, but you're not going to be in on all of the major decision making that goes on.
Yeah. And also, things at home should stay the same, even though you're going back to work as well,
That's it
right?
too.
That's the missing
So
piece, I think, as well.
exactly. So all these women then also thought, well, as long as I'm going to work and he's going to work, surely he's going to do some of the housekeeping chores that I have to do, the children raising chores that I have to do. Because, I mean, why would I be doing both things?
Yeah.
They'll wear me out.
Yeah.
But men never even realized that their wives were going to want help at home if they were also then going to earn a living for the family.
Yeah.
And I think that that was such a grave injustice to not have educated men on what it meant for a woman to go out into the workplace, and especially for their wives to go out into the workplace. What a, I can see that it took them by surprise because nobody told them what
Yeah.
what it all would mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going to work in the 1980, and I just thought, as long as I wear suits and I go to meetings, I am powerful and I'm going to get it all and I'm going to have it all. And, I just assumed that that's where we were as women.
Yeah.
So at the age of 22, I'm thinking, wait a second. It's not like that. I am not listened to in the workplace the way the boys are. There's a boys' network here. It exists. It's still here. It never went away. And all the major decisions up at the top are still being made by men. And so when am I going to get that chance? I remember thinking that. So then I thought, well, it'll be okay as long as I marry a man who is very self-actualized, as long as, he's going to be so liberated, he's going to understand what it means to be in a relationship with a woman who is working outside the home. And, even though I think I married someone who is very respectful of women, very much, has a lot of friends who are women, and has never once, ever, ever, ever spoken down to women or spoken in a way that says, I don't respect you to a woman, he never cooked dinner. So suddenly I am in this position where, I was used to coming home and making a peanut butter sandwich. And now I am feeling the weight of these generations of women who, once they get married, are having to make sure that there's food on the table. Why? Yeah. Why did I feel the responsibility? Why did I not train my husband immediately and say, look, this means that you have to participate in this process too. And I remember saying to him, look, I'm not the one who's going to clean the house all the time. You're going to have to do some cleaning too. Well, that was causing a lot of friction between us. So I just thought, okay, I'll just hire a housekeeper. That was easily taken care of. I've had a housekeeper, for decades and decades now. And that works for me because I do not want to clean a toilet. It's not my thing. But the other thing about making sure that we know what's going to be for, on for dinner. Are we socializing with so and so and so and so? Where are we going on vacation? Where are we going on vacation? Who is going to take care of the tickets? Who is taking care of making sure that we have something to do every day? What are we going to do every day? I'm the one planning it all.
Mm.
Why? Why
Yeah.
is it just assumed that it's going to be me? Even I assumed it was going to be me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's generational programming, I guess, both nature and nurture. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you are raising these questions because it's important to take some time to step back
Yeah.
and just ask ourselves, is this the way that it should be going forward? And
Yeah.
what else
And
can we
this,
do about this?
exactly. And this is what Radha is asking herself in 1974.
Mm.
It's like, well, I don't understand. I'm also working, but why am I expected to do all the other work as
Mm.
well?
Mm.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I wanted to bring that out because I also wanted for book clubs to talk about this very question. The book takes place in 1974. Radha is dealing with the equality issue at home, and we are now in 2025,
50 years later.
decades
Yeah.
and decades away,
Yeah.
but we are still asking the same questions and dealing with the same equality issue. Why
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Something that we touched on last time was the fact that your work highlighted these aspects of humanity that sometimes we are not at a privilege to discuss because of either social acceptance or the ability, our inability to express them. I'd like to read just one more paragraph again about Radha. This is when she talks about her inner conflict between her work and her relationship with Pierre. She said, I want more for myself. I'm a bad wife for wanting more. I love Pierre and I want us to be happy. I resent Pierre for not understanding me or even trying to understand me. I love spending time with my daughters. I'm conflicted when I have to spend time with them and it cuts into my work on the Olympia project. I like it when we're all together as a family. Sometimes I wish I lived alone and had no one to look after. I mean, have you been living inside my head?
So many women have shared that with me that, they just want time away from everything and everybody because it's as if there's only one of them, but five of them are required to take care of everybody else's needs.
Hmm.
And wouldn't it be a huge relief to them if they could just be alone for a while and not have anybody, asking them, where is this? And how much is that? And when are we doing this? And, what are we doing about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but thank you so much for, putting it out there, the juxtapositions between the internal narratives
Mhm.
and internal struggles that we all face. And despite all that, we still persevere.
Yeah. Women are just
Again,
strong. Women are
yeah.
just incredibly resilient. They can put up with so much. And I think maybe because we can do so much, we we accept the responsibility so much more easily. We like if I see dirty dishes on the kitchen counter, it drives me nuts, right? It doesn't drive my husband nuts. He might just see those. So finally, one day, I just said to him, I go, you know, I think you're going to have to put the dishes away in the dishwasher and take them out again because I can't see this every day. And you know what he did? He started doing that. He's
Yeah.
the only person who knows now how to run the dishwasher. I don't even know how.
Yeah,
And
you
he
win
puts the
for
dishes.
Alka.
Yeah, and he puts the dishes away once they're dry. So
Yeah.
that helped. One of the other things that we used to go through is that if I wanted, let's say, the bed made a certain way, you know, and and I go, no, 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 that pillow goes here and that pillow goes there, right? Because I mean, we all like things a certain way. My husband used to say, well, then just do it yourself, right? And that's not an acceptable answer. No, it's not because I specifically want it done a certain way. It's just that my philosophy in life is if you're going to do something, do it well. Right. I don't know if you feel that way, Jane, but the way I was raised in my immigrant family is if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right.
Mm.
It's not worth doing a slipshod job.
Mm.
So that is why I would want things, a certain way. And I used to just shut up after he said, well, then you'll just have to do it your way. You'll just have to do it that way. But at some point, I got a backbone and I said, no, that's not acceptable to me that you are answering me that way. No, you need to do it a certain way because this is the way that it looks best on the bed, or this is the way that it looks the neatest, or, the pillowcases should match because frankly, I know you like it when the bed is made beautifully as opposed to when we've got mismatched bedding all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he got that. He got that.
That's awesome. I mean, we're talking about beddings here, but it's
Yeah.
so much more in life, right? It's basically
It's
about
so much.
boundaries in what
Right.
you're able to
Right.
live with when what you're not able to live with.
Yeah.
Which takes
And we've
me, yes, go on,
and
sorry.
we've been married for 30 years.
Wow.
Some of these changes that have come about just in the last 10 years. Like I put up with stuff for 20 years before I said anything.
Yeah. What was it that made him change? I mean, he probably wouldn't have changed just because you said it. It was the follow through that you
It
did.
was, yes, it was a follow through, but it was a change in my tone and the way I said it.
Mm.
So instead of being upset, I said, we need to just talk about this for
Mm.
a second, because this is how I feel when I do this, when I'm
Mm.
the one constantly thinking about what is for dinner. Do we have everything we need in the fridge to make that dinner? When are we going to eat tonight based on our schedules and so on? When I'm the one doing all of that, I feel that I never said once when we were marrying each other, I never once said, and I promise to do all of this for you every single day of our lives together. I don't remember saying that. It's a huge responsibility. And it weighs on me every day that I am having to figure all of this out. And I would really like for you to accept some of the responsibility of doing this.
Mm.
And it was amazing how when I was calm and I didn't have that, no, that's okay, I'll do it myself. When I wasn't being defensive, when I wasn't being angry, when I just said it the way that I felt, like I felt so burdened with this responsibility, he actually heard me.
Mm. That's good. Comes with age and
Yeah, I think it comes with
wisdom.
age.
I,
Because
yeah.
we're so quick to anger when we're younger. I mean, I remember, just getting really angry with him, and then we'd just be angry for a couple of days at each other.
I hear a lot of Lakshmi's wisdom in that. Well, or the other way around. I hear a lot of your wisdom on
Yeah.
Lakshmi.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Talking about couple dynamics, you mentioned just ever so briefly last time that you went through separation as well with your previous partner. I
Yes.
went through separation with a kid's dad early last year, and it sent me through a whole journey of self exploration, self understanding, self compassion.
Uh-huh.
Would you be open to sharing some of your journey as well and how it
Sure.
transformed your life?
Sure. It was my decision to leave. And so guilt overrode everything. And from the Perfumist to Paris, from the Henna Artist, that our protagonists feel a lot of guilt for decisions that they have made that are going to affect someone else adversely.
Yeah.
That is just something that I, as a woman, have not been able to get past very quickly. It takes me a long time to
Mm.
think that I made the right decision for me, but did I make the right decision for that person? And should I have stuck it
Yep.
out longer, tried harder? But I did stick it out for many years. And it wasn't as if we were fighting all the time. It was just that we just weren't aligning on the same plane about our goals for our future. And I've always been very ambitious. I wanted to, move on, do other things, get on with life. And he was stuck. He was stuck in a place. And no matter what I suggested, no matter how many times I said, we could do this, or we could structure our lives this way so that you could do whatever it is you want to do. It didn't seem to register with him. He just wanted to stay stuck, I think, for some reason. And I ultimately realized that it was keeping me locked in this battle, internal battle about, should I leave? Should I stay? Should I leave? Should I stay? And I said, Alka, you just have to make a decision. You just make the decision. I remember recently, and I don't remember where I heard this, but they said, once you make the decision, you're already home. Because once you have made the decision, there is no other course to take. You made one decision and you're going to follow this course now. So it's no use saying, oh, wow, what else could I have done? I could have done this, or I could have done that, or I could have taken path A. You didn't. The thing is, you didn't. Just move forward. I have a girlfriend who has now been married to her husband for, I think, about 19 years. And she has been telling me, as long as I have known her, 7, 8 years or so, he wasn't really the guy I wanted to marry, but I just, he just kept asking me and asking me and asking me. And so I finally said yes, even though I was perfectly happy being single. And I would have been happy if he had stayed single, and I would have stayed single, and we would have just kept on sort of dating the rest of our lives. But I got married, and now I'm not happy with the way things have turned out and everything. And 8 years go by like this, right? Finally, I say, you might want to see this therapist I know. So she goes to the therapist. She comes back. And the next time I see her, she goes, you know what he said to me? He said, you are beyond the point where you should be belaboring this decision. You made a decision to be married to him.
Yeah.
Now get over the fact that you made a different decision 19 years ago. Get over it.
Yeah.
Now just figure out how you can be happy with the decision that you made.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting.
And I tell you, it was a really good decision for me to leave that relationship. I do think, in hindsight, what's happened is I think he has stayed stuck, and I have moved on.
Yeah. And the way you were being was a threat to his self-identity, and maybe vice versa.
Maybe not. I don't know. We weren't in the same field, so it wasn't like I was competing against him or anything. I just think that I do think that in the way that Radha and Pierre deal with it in The Perfumist of Paris, sometimes we just outgrow people and we need to just move on. It has happened all throughout our lives. And if we look at the grade school kids that we no longer know, that used to be our best friends, we spent every hour we could with them. Same thing with college friends, maybe, we were inseparable, but now, we reach out to them once a year, or maybe only at reunions or whatever. We do outgrow people, and it's perfectly okay for us to do that.
Nice. Thank you, Alka.
You're welcome.
So you have 4 books out. You are in your 60s now?
Yes, 67 now.
Wow, 67. Congratulations. I mean,
I never thought I'd be this old.
And a best-selling author. What's next for you? What can we expect from you?
So now I'm working on book number 5, which will be out in late 2026 or early 2027, whenever they schedule it in the production.
Nice.
And I don't know the title yet, but it is about a young girl in 1920s India, and she wants to learn a classical dance. There should be no reason why she can't learn this dance, except that 90 years earlier, the British had made it, I should say, after the 1857 mutiny against the British, the British found out, the British won that mutiny. They were not conquered by the Indians. But what they found out is that the courtesans had financed that mutiny. And once they found that out, they said anything associated with courtesans is disreputable, it's salacious, it is unsavory. And so all these ancient dances that these women used to dance, the poetry they used to sing and recite, the music that they used to play on their venas and tablas, all of that, the British said, was now not savory and unseemly. And, Indian families then decided that they weren't going to let their children learn any of these ancient traditions. Now, one thing I have read about since then is that one of the ways that colonial powers work is that they separate the indigenous people from their identity, and their identity was very heavily into cultural traditions like dance and music and poetry and literature. And the British were masters at separating the people they colonized from their culture. And this was one of the ways that they did it. They just said, oh, it's primitive, it's uncivilized, it's unseemly, all of those kinds of things. So this girl is 16 years old, has seen men dancing this dance because, like so many other cultural traditions or so many other things, it's okay for men to do something, but it's not okay for women to do it. And she spies this man who's rehearsing this dance, and she's like, I want to dance that. What is that? I want to dance that. So she has to, in secret, find an instructor because she realizes that this is not going to be approved by her family. And then she has to find some secret way to perform this as well. So I just love this whole idea that, she has to clandestinely find a way to learn a cultural tradition that was practiced for centuries and centuries before then. And sort of like how it makes her feel. And, I think that when something is in your heritage or it's in your bones or it's in your DNA, I think that it probably awakens something in you that you may not have even realized. So it is awakening something in her, and it's bringing her closer to the mother whom she lost a year ago. So that's sort of what's happening with that. Yeah. And I get a chance to describe the dance and the kinds of storytelling that the dance is all about, because that's all the dance was. It's just telling stories from the texts of the Ramayana and the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah.
Excellent. Did you go into those texts deeply on your preparation?
Not deeply because they are pretty thick, but I definitely read some of the stories that I know are very popular as dances. So I read those stories to see, oh, okay, so now I can watch the dance and I can see how they're telling that story. It's really lovely.
Ah, excellent. I was in DC 2 years ago, and this monk was sitting in a corner, and he said, if you want it, you can have a free copy of Bhagavad Gita. And I do have a copy of it in my bookcase. I just haven't finished it yet.
Oh, that's so amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's really great. That's
Yeah.
really great. Yeah.
All right. Well, Alka Joshi, thank you again for spending some of your time and a lot of your wisdom with us. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you. All 4 books I found was really hard to put down. I got into trouble a few times because I stayed up too late and turned up to work a little bit sleep deprived. But it's been such a journey, and I've enjoyed every moment of each single book. So thank you for taking us on a journey of exploration, but also just an internal, how should I explain this? Internal expression that is just written out in the world and make us feel more accepted for being who we are. Thank you, Alka,
That's
for making
lovely.
us
That's
less
lovely.
alone.
Well, Thank you for reminding me about all of the things that I have written that I, like once the book is out, I don't go back and read it again.
Yeah,
So I
no.
forget, and then I move on to the next book and the one after that.
Yeah, no, they're all very enjoyable. So thank you so much. And I really look forward to seeing you in Sydney one day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Jane. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for having me on your
Alka.
podcast.
Have a good tour.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode of The Breadwinning Mums was produced by me, Jane Lim, and our theme music was produced by Sam McNally. We recorded this episode on the lens of dark people who have passed their parenting story for generations. We pay our respects to the elders past and present and thank them for caring for country. Connect with us through LinkedIn or Instagram at Breadwinning Mums. Until next time.